Hello, everyone. We are live on a few different platforms, I think. So please do let us know where you're joining from. And I am back here in the cold UK. You can see from my thick jumper. And Chantelle is in the very hot South Africa. How are you doing, Chantelle?
I'm really great. Thank you, Catherine. How are you?
Really, really good. My sort of motto for 2024 so far has been, wow, that's interesting. In terms of, it's going to really play into what we're talking about today about misinformation and fake news. Hi, Lisa. Do let us know where you're joining from. This is going to be an opportunity.
Hey, Lisa. She's a regular on Error as well. Nice to see you there.
Yeah, it's a really important subject today for those of you joining us, where we're going to be talking about as much as we can on the platforms we're at. So please be aware with your comments or your questions in the chat that we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we are on X. Fake news and misinformation, because this affects every single one of us in so many different ways, some ways that we're really aware of, some ways that we're not aware of. When we decided to chat about this, Chantelle, what did it bring up for you?
A smile, because I think we are so, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like a bit like your motto, I think. But because I think we are so steeped in that right now, and we have been for a while, you know. And I find it very interesting. We were also just talking about Putin's interview with Tucker Carlson, which I didn't listen to, but I've seen the transcripts. I've read the transcripts. So I think, I just, you know, Putin's a cool guy, you know, when it comes to, you know, is it the real him? Isn't it blah, 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 whatever. But what his character represents, put it that way, I really enjoy what his character represents, if it's him or if it isn't, you know, because I'm saying that because I know some of, you know, invariably go, well, he's not the real Putin. Okay, well, you know, there's always, you know, right now we're living in super interesting times. And I really, you know, for me, the first thing that I thought about was the last couple of weeks, you and I have been doing the law of vibration, law of attraction, that sort of thing, and really understanding that your body is a resonance chamber, and we're all created from sound, frequency, and vibration. So when we are aligned with truth, when we're aligned with our truth, God's truth, whatever you call it, source, the divine, creator, whatever it is for you, right? You have a way of smelling what's not true. So I'm not saying it's obvious right from the get-go, because we know by now how the creatures of the night have learned to manipulate and contort and really dumb us down since forever. I mean, we've been living in a misinformation for the last couple of centuries, right? So we're coming out of that place now. And it can be very confusing. So yes, when we, you know, the first thing for me is to know thyself. You get to know yourself. And when you start trusting yourself, when you have that confidence in yourself, you then start recognizing the truth from the lies.
Absolutely. That's pretty much with you on that. I think it's so interesting. I feel that my ability to do this is just really getting better and better and better, whilst at the same time, I'm very much putting my hand up and saying there's certain situations and certain people where I'm still not getting a clear message from. And I'm loving, thank you so much all for joining us in the chat. Love seeing all our regulars. Yeah. In this chat, you're going to have plenty of time to put your questions and comments in, so don't be shy. But in terms of the misinformation and the fake news, it was really fascinating because I thought about this yesterday, and then I hadn't put two and two together about the Tucker Carlson and Putin interview. And I actually listened to the full 2 hours plus this morning on my dog walk. And I was watching quite a bit of the phone as well, because the body language is very telling as well.
Right.
And regardless of what everyone thinks of the situation, there were a few things there that point out to me about where my spider senses go off in terms of when people are really being authentic and when they're not, and when something's fake news and when it's not. And obviously it's a bit like when you join a book club or anything like that. You can have, 10 of your best friends all reading the same book, and then when you're discussing it, you'll have all been drawn to different sections based on where you're at in your life and what you're resonating with. So this is going to be very much the same. But I did something, Chantelle, that I haven't done for ages, and I then watched some of the BBC News reports on it, where they have one of the Ukrainian politicians. I can't for the life of me remember his name, because I'm really bad with politicians' names, because I ignore them all.
Yeah,
but
terrible. I don't even know who they are. I know Boris because of his hair, but I don't think he's your prime minister anymore.
Yeah, look, people look up GP News, because I just listened to it, so it's very fresh, and I can honestly say I listened to it from an objective point of view, not having a strong opinion either way. Just thought, right, I'm going to really listen to this from a neutral mindset and see what my spider senses are picking up. And then I heard the interview on GP News, and I was just laughing, because this is so manipulated, what you're saying. You know, he was saying, Putin said this and Putin said that, this Ukrainian prime. And I was like, no, he didn't at all. But he said it with such conviction, anyone just watching that would have thought. So I wanted to go through a few of our red warning flags, Chantelle, and for people in the chat to put in what your warning flags. And my first warning flag is something fake news or deliberate misinformation. Sorry, turn my phone off. Is when you've got multiple people from the same community spouting the same information, almost in a brainwashing way. So we all know it happens in the mainstream media. So when we take the COVID thing, we know that across the globe, all the mainstream media were spouting the same things. But we've also seen it in the alternative media, the YouTube, the Rumble, where we've all been fed, this is a story, this person is transgender, this person is a clone, this person says, consistent across the things, a bit like the Emperor's New Clothes, where if we all repeat it enough, it becomes true. So that's my first warning flag. Do you pick up on that as well, Chantelle, and what's yours?
Absolutely. I was definitely going to say, you know, when there's this mass sort of influx of throwing it at us, like, it's like, and as you say, you know, the mainstream media does that. And I found that in the last couple of years as well, or maybe since I've been, you know, also when I came into this alternative community, so to speak, it was for me I thought we were all the good guys, right? And it took me a little while it took me maybe 9 months to a year to figure out, hang on, we're not all the good guys, right? And I want to say, you know, when we hear people talking this, talking that, and just throwing things at us all the time, in the sense that we've got to use discernment. And this is where I say, you know, when you know yourself, when you've had a relationship with your creator, when you've walked a path of intuition and you've trusted your intuition in the past, you know, and I must say that is a blessing for me, because from when I was a little girl, even though I was completely ostracized in many situations for that gift I had, it has absolutely served me well. Over the past 20 plus years as a healer, that's you know, because my work is intuitive. It's very much intuitive. I see the energy in the body, and I see what's creating the illness, for example. And it's given me a strong sense of trusting my intuition, right? I do the same thing in these situations. And what I have noticed, there's so many layers on people. So it's almost like, because we're dealing with really witchcraft of the highest degree, right? Oftentimes these people are shrouded. And when I say shrouded, it's like they've got layers of prettiness around them. But it's just too pretty. You know, I always say when you know, God's bling is, if you look at gold is not shiny. Real gold is like, it's almost like brownish almost, right? So it's not like the shiny bling stuff. It's more like a molten color, and it's not as shiny. That's all I'm saying. So when someone is trying to imitate gold, it's kind of like just a little bit too bling. Yeah. So I'd go, hang on. This is just not right. So I'd step back and I'd watch that person, and I'd watch what they're saying. And I'd see how they trip themselves up. And I would go, wrong. That is not true. And then it was very funny, interesting, actually, Catherine, and I was trying to sit here. I wonder if it wasn't Raw News. There was a channel called Raw News or something like that. And I do speak under correction. But I was actually watching something once that a guy actually did a show on Raw News. And he said, who the heck is this Raw News that everyone is getting their information from?
Yeah.
He did a whole thing on tracking this guy down, who just happened to be some dude sitting in his garage spouting out nonsense that he sucked out from somewhere, and was like actually doing an experiment to see who is actually going to fall for this.
Exactly.
And a lot of the top truthers would take in this information and making it their own and saying, well, we get it from these reliable sources. I just started laughing because I knew in that moment, I knew that was the truth, and just a whole lot of things came crumbling down for me. So it's like, really what I do is I don't watch a lot of alternative channels. I don't. I work with myself, and I come across people that I work with, and I really like the people I work with. I trust them. Doesn't mean that every single thing they're doing is right or spot on. We all make mistakes. We're human beings. But the question is, how much BS is being put out there deliberately? And that, for me, is something that is so important. And the more gossipy it is, and it's true what you're saying, Madeline.
Exactly. Just about to put that up. It's very
when it's gossipy, you want to stay away from it. And really, and it's, I always meditate, I always pray and meditation are my key ingredients for finding the truth. So I'll pray and I'll meditate. And that's
I'm
for
laughing
me.
at myself here. People can see I've had comments about me flicking my hair. Well, because my fringe is long, I'm so conscious I don't want it over one eye now, otherwise someone will screenshot that and put it on there. So,
and then you've been looking to the dark cult. Oh, Catherine, stop it.
So yeah, I must, if I'm flicking my hair back and it's annoying you, it's because someone will screenshot with it over one eye, and that will start the next chain of events off. So I think this is really important for us, and for me, and thank you for your interaction in the chat. It's really important when we're doing this. I think being humble enough to be wrong and to learn is so important, Chantelle, because the thing is, most of us who do this sort of work are listening to the sort of channels. We're quite empathic. We want the world to be a better place. We're very well aware of the law of vibration, that our thoughts become things. So in that respect, you want to actually take the positive from people. And therefore, sometimes you can override your intuition sometimes by this sort of almost spiritual bypassing of always needing to look at the positive of everything. So one of the things I've really learned personally is, if you're questioning someone either on an individual level or on a more public level, and so long as you're doing that questioning respectfully from a genuine place of curiosity, if you're shut down or shamed or gaslit for trying to put an alternative point of view, that's a massive red flag for me.
Right. And I mean, respect being the key. I mean, we know, for example, how many people out there will, when you sit on a platform like this, you literally are a target for rotten eggs. If people are in a bad mood and they just don't like what you're saying in that moment, I mean, boy, can they lash out and gaslight and speak nonsense, So we also have to be, have our wits about us, that's for sure, when we are on these platforms. But I think, to question someone or something is very important. And I'm looking at Carol. I think what you're saying is, I cannot trust anything. I want to research for myself and see what resonates. That is exactly what I absolutely 100% agree with. I say this to people all the time. Research for yourself. Go in there, check it out. when we're seeing another war has begun, go and research. I mean, you know, I was looking, and in fact, after someone a show with Rock and Mike, and we're talking about the Ukraine again, like obviously Putin as well, speaking about Putin, and Marina Abramovich, child trafficking, child transportation rather, stuff like that. You know, so it's very interesting. It's very important to be able to see, you know, it's like when we're looking at Putin, for example, you can see how over the years America, or the especially, I mean, when I say America, I mean, I know we have amazing American clients, not clients, viewers, but let's talk about particularly the Hillary and Biden and co. How they got involved there, and how literally their aggravation and their financial deals and stuff in the Ukraine was really what started this war. When you're looking at that, and you can see how they try to aggravate Putin to declare war basically on the Ukraine. And really at the end of the day, did he or didn't he? You know, I know mainstream media makes it look that way. I have always had questions about that. So we always need to look at on a deeper level. And especially when mainstream media is spewing that to us. If mainstream media is spewing that to us, please don't listen, because they are really there to bring in chaos. Their objective is to bring in chaos, create fear. So that's how they gather control of the masses, really. That's how they feed off our energy, is with the chaos and fear. So in that way, we've got to be very observant. Don't watch the news. I don't know when last I watched news.
This morning, really, to see how it was reported, and it was absolutely comical. Absolutely comical. It was exactly what I anticipated, Chantelle. And sometimes if you just want to reinforce the fact that you're not going mad and which is all manipulated, it's interesting to listen to something yourself. But I would say it's really important. Again, we're using the Putin interview as an example because it couldn't be more relevant and it's so current, is you have to listen to the whole lot. And in my opinion, you have to watch it as well as listen to it, because a lot is said. It's about how people say it. And I love the fact that Aristotle says it's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And I think this is something, again, a big red flag for me in terms of if you're questioning, is something misinformation or fake news or someone trying to deliberately mislead you, regardless of what platform they're on, is to say, are they able to have polite, respectful conversation about it, and are they remaining unattached enough to really listen to what the other person's saying, or are they listening to respond rather than listening to understand?
Absolutely. There are a few people that do that, actually. It's called reaction versus response, and I'll be the first to put my hand up to say, well, reaction has been something that has been my enemy from when I was a gone yonder little pickaninny. But as I've gotten older, there are definitely times I still react, and I'm not going to lie about that. And that is something I work with. But a response rather than a reaction is when you take a breath, you breathe, you go, okay, hang on. That's all. That is an intelligent question. So let's think about this for a while. How do you really feel about that? And then you can address it from that place, you know. So, yeah. And, you know, but, you know, again, Catherine, just going back, look, if we go back right to our birth, and for I don't know how many centuries now already, we know that we've been born on this planet and we've been dumbed down through our food, through our education system, through our water, through what we've been taught to believe about ourselves. You know, I mean, if we just look, I mean, Bryce and I did that interview not too long ago on plastic surgery. And just looking at the amount of plastic surgery young girls, young women, beautiful women are having, I mean, it is frightening. Why? Why we're being taught that we are not beautiful, that we are not enough, that we are not complete, and Why have we been taught to be so uncomfortable in our own skins? You know, when we look at the beauty industry, I mean, there's a meme I sometimes post on Facebook that says, if every woman decided to love herself today as she is, tomorrow the beauty industry would close down. And I'm not saying, hey, a lovely facial isn't something I want to do, or a massage, or definitely I'm never going to say no to that. But I'm saying, you know, the fact that we have absolutely lied to ourselves about who we are to begin with is where the problem lies. You know, to be able to discern the truth from the lie outside of us in our environment, we have to be able to discern the truth from the lie within us. It always begins with what's happening here. So when we are aligned with that here, everything around us is going to be actually okay. Really, we're going to be right. I can almost say like 100% of the time. If you smell something's off, I mean, I've definitely over the years, I've worked with, and I can see there's one guy in particular. I used to like him. In fact, I had him on my show a couple of times here, Gone Yonder, years ago. And I just looked at him the other day and I went, something's different about you. And when I did just my own little tune in and I just asked for guidance, I knew he's been replaced. He's been replaced. And I was like, okay, something's happened with you. I don't know what, I don't really care, but no thanks. I understand. And, you know, it's also common knowledge in amongst the truther community that they are telling truthers, the white hats, as people call them, are telling truthers to put out misinformation out there. That's part of their job.
I've heard this now. Also say there's a lot of that information isn't necessarily coming from the white hats as well. Some is.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because they want people to be calm, or they want people to toe the line, or they don't want to create this and what have you. So there's a lot of information from, and that's why, you know, when we just look, and for me that makes sense when JC speaks about the light side and the dark side of the system. It's like the dark side would be when they fight and kill each other and blood spot, you know, in whatever. And then the witches, the healers will come and heal the scar, all of that. Tomorrow, you've got no evidence on your body that happened, but obviously in your being, you remember very well. And that's where the scars lie. But it's almost that, right? So it makes perfect sense to me that, you know, what is truth and what is a lie, because there's the light side and there's the dark side. So they work together, actually. And you, the one that stands in between that has to discern between the truth or the lie. And because that lie can sometimes smell so sweet, but maybe it's just a little bit too sweet.
And I think oh, such a good point. Now, I've got an interview airing tomorrow night. I've really encouraged people to watch for it. It's not from someone you've probably heard of. It's a really good life coach that actually used to be my daughter's football coach. And he said something really fascinating, Chantelle. And it was about how there's a reason why we can't smell our own breath. You know, if you've got, you know, you're going to kiss someone and you sort of go like this to smell your breath, or sometimes you can smell someone's breath's bad and they're completely oblivious to it themselves, because we've become accustomed to being so focused on what's outside of us rather than inside of ourselves, because we've lost that connection. It's why I won't bore you with the science. It's all to do with the microbiome and how screwed up that is now. But it's a really, really important point, because we're so obsessed. If we just take some of the key things that we've been, in my opinion, led down the garden path on, you know, all this money is coming to people. We've all been robbed. Well, we know we've been robbed, but two things can be true. Just because we've been robbed doesn't mean we're all going to get £1 million, multi-million-pound payout and pay back, because the whole point is the people that have robbed us don't care that it's illegal. People are missing the point. So how many people could have already been growing their own food, been looking after their own health, been using all the healing things that are out there now, But the truth of community has kept everyone, oh, I must rush off to the latest device. I must do this med bed. I'm going to wait. I'm going to set up my rescue centre once I get my big payout. And it's all when, wasting the lives. And how many people are going to get to their deathbed and think, oh, my goodness, I could have been doing this all along. And so for me,
I agree with that.
Red flag about misinformation, for me personally, is, look, if someone's saying when this happens, everything will be okay, that's against all the laws of the universe. It has to be, you're okay now, and then you'll attract the stuff in. What do you feel about that, Chantelle?
So true. And the minute they say, you know, for me, this time has been so important for people to become self-sufficient. Yeah. I've noticed that during this time, I mean, there have been so many emotional crises, health crises, financial crises that people have had to go through because they've refused to have the zappity-doo-dah-day, so they've lost their jobs. But, you know, for me, that has been a really good thing. And why do I say that? Simple. Because you're forced to look deep within. You're forced to access your own creativity. You're forced to access the truth inside of you. If your marriage has been a sham for the last 5 or 10 years, often this has been a time when that's come to the fore and you've been forced to separate. Now, separation is not always a nice thing. It's never a nice thing, in fact. But it really is something that can release you from a very toxic situation and put, you know, set you forward in another direction. Anything like that. Financially, you know, we've been so bound. And how do they always get us is money, right? Yeah. Well, when this, we're going to pay you. And don't worry, when that happens, when they start telling you, when they start promising you stuff like this, external to yourself, massive red flags. I would rather say, you know, I've always said this, and trust me, it's happened with me. The best thing that can happen to people for a while, that everyone you thought loved you or you loved should turn their back on you. Because then you stand with yourself and you get to access your own spirit. You get to access the strength within you. You are forced to now connect with your creator, and you are forced to find the creative spark, the creative intelligence, the ability to make money or whatever, just like that. As you say, you know, grow your own food. Like if 10 people on your street or in your community all grew their veggies and you were all bartering with each other, hello, how much money would you save just on food, right? I mean, that would be amazing for me if more and more people started doing that. That we stopped relying on others who told us how good our life can be or how much we're going to suffer without that when they decide to change it. Because we give our power away like that. All the time we give our power away like that. So when we reclaim our birthright, which is miracles are our birthright, right? You are a born miracle. And when you own that and you claim that, you'll be creating miracles every second of every day. You'll discover water in your garden that you didn't know was there, you know, all sorts of things like that. I don't know, each person is individual. Suddenly people offer you a job that you never thought was possible in the area that you've always dreamed of, right? But that comes when you start believing in yourself and start knowing that there is enough for everyone. That's the big thing. We've been taught there's not enough, right? That's been the narrative we've been fed since birth. Not enough money, not enough food, not enough time, not enough jobs. And people then start operating on stress. And the minute you operate on stress, you put that stress vibration, never mind what happens in your body, I'm just talking about your energy. You put that stress vibration out there, and what do? You attract every situation that matches that stressful vibration. People who are as stressed as you, things that create more stress for you, right? Then you live in that stress vibration. But when you come from the place of I'm enough, always have been and always will be. You meet people who feel the same thing, and you have this calm connection. And you start working together. Hey, what have you got? Hey, I've got this. Hey, how about we try this? Hey, let's do that. Hey, that's fantastic. You know, we can do all of these amazing things together. So this is what I believe we need to be doing right now. I've been saying this for a very long time, and I'll say it until the day that I leave the earth plane.
I so agree. And I think this is why communities like this, thank you so much for your for your comments, and thank you so much for your donation. That's so kind. We really appreciate it. I have personally just bought, so I love Matt from Cultivate Elevate. Don't know how many of you watch his channel. He's amazing. And I've been looking at doing electroculture for ages, because I'm really I'm so into getting rid of lawns and turning them back into food forests, because it's just a natural heaven. And you can do it slowly. I'm doing it slowly because of time and money. And I've just bought my copper wires. So my job for tomorrow is to go around putting all my copper wires everywhere for the electrical.
Oh, wow, nice.
But I think, you know, this is so important that we refocus our information, our time, our energy, our currency, our energy currency on what we can all do now and share these ideas, because it's so important that we don't feed the machine, because the truth of community, the alternative media, has generally speaking not served many people at all, in my humble opinion, because it's taken them away, it's kept them in a fear state, it's made them reliant on other people's information too much. And we are community beings. We are a species that needs to be in a community. So that's a very strong desire. And I can certainly put my hand up and say some of my mistakes over the last few years have been overriding my intuition because of the need or want to be part of a community. And I recognize that, and I've made mistakes, and I'm sure I will continue to make some mistakes on that. But it's getting better and better, and I'm getting more and more resourceful, and I can honestly say so much less needy, and able to really, when I say detach emotionally, Chantelle, I think, you know, you all know what I mean. It doesn't mean that I'm suppressing my emotions at all. It's just I'm not attached to it being this way or that way. I'm very open to sort of saying, well, actually, we're all talking about this or that, but we haven't even looked at those other options. How exciting could it be to explore there?
Exactly. And I really think that this is a time where we are given, the opportunity to try and find ways to do things differently. And I will always go back to saying that when you are looking within yourself, when you're doing the necessary shadow work within your own being, when you are figuring yourself out along the way, you find what's true, your confidence grows, your energy grows, your health grows, everything becomes more expanded in a good way. You then pass that on to those around you, and that's what we have to do, Catherine. For me, it's that simple. And it's, well, it's not, I mean, just because it's that simple doesn't mean it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but it takes that thought. And you'll know that moment you have that aha moment, it's like, yes. But then act on it. You see, what's important is that when we get those, I call them the downloads. When we get those downloads, then we have to act on it. Otherwise it just remains something that stays in the ethos as an idea or a thought that you're chewing over, and rest assured, before you know it, someone else is going to grab it, because once it's out there, it's out there. Someone else is going to pick up on it. If you don't pick up on it.
It's so important to get up and do it. It's so important, because let's face it, nothing in life that's worth having is easy. And I don't mean that from a place of lack or struggle. I mean, they've done so many studies on human psychology, and that sense of achievement just lifts your vibration up so much. If you get 100% in an exam and get into whatever you need, the job or the college, and you've cheated, there's no sense of achievement there at all. It's just absolutely flattening to people. You feel that internal fraud. But when you've worked hard for something, that satisfaction of spending all day in the kitchen and preparing a lovely meal for the family. It's even better when I do it for my doggies and my cats. I love my feed time.
And when you've grown it yourself, I mean, what a pleasure.
Absolutely. And the thing is I think getting this love back for actually a job well done, you know, when you found out a fact yourself, or you've heard something, because it's great to build on other people's ideas. So say you hear something, you think that's interesting, I'm going to go and research a bit myself. It's so much more motivating when you've added your bit to it on top of what the other person's told you. So I think we've almost part of the misinformation and the fake news has been to brainwash people into thinking that they're not capable, and also very much brainwashing people that if they can't prove it, it's not true. Where we've seen time and time again that actually when we come back to that intuition, that's the bit that's really true. And intellectually, because that's all happening in our conscious mind rather than our subconscious mind, you know, it's so easy to fool people on the intellectual level.
Absolutely true. You know, and that's I like the fact that you highlight the intellectual level, because when we're operating only from one aspect, many of us operate on the intellectual aspect, and we call that intelligence, right?
Yes.
Because very often the more degrees you have, and how many degrees you have that can't even fit on your business card, you know, then you're kind of seen as this really bright spark. Or very often and that's, I mean, and I don't say that with everyone, so don't get me wrong, but I always say during this time, I have not come across more intelligent fools in my life, because it's usually those people that have been so entrenched and so part of the system that have completely not understood the power, the healing power of the body and the healing power of your emotions and how it all works together. You are the most incredibly intelligent force to be reckoned with when you get that about yourself. Otherwise, you can be a dumbass that just flies around as well, you know, like just kind of like goes along with whatever the system is suggesting. Everyone can be a dumbass too, you know. But the minute you click into who you are, your potential, what the possibilities of who you as an individual are, and what a difference you can make, not just in your own life, in your family's life, but then those around you. And so we then spread. It's like that whole 100 monkey syndrome, right? And so that consciousness spreads. Eventually, not everyone has to do it. I mean, we are pioneers at this stage, you know. We really are pioneers in what we're doing. And I'm not just saying you and I'm talking about everyone involved, you know. We will do this for our grandchildren, our great-great-grandchildren. They'll come along and they're like, won't have a clue what grandma here had to do, right? It'll be in their DNA already. So it's wonderful to know that we're part of this process where we can make the change. I was saying on one of my shows last night, sometimes it feels like walking through the Amazon jungle with a little pocket knife. And Caleb said, no, toothpick. I said, you're right, actually, you know, and trying to cut through a pathway, right, with everything that's coming at you. But we have the ability and the capability of doing that. And when we have trust, we have faith. It's faith over fear. That's how we do it, really. And act on that. You got to learn how to trust your intuition. And when you trust that, you then act. Acting is so important. In other words, walking the talk, doing what you know you should be doing, and not just laying with your feet up in the air. Look, there's days and there's nights where you should be laying with your feet up in the air as well, definitely. But it shouldn't be a 22/7 thing. It shouldn't be happening 22 hours of the day.
That's it. It's all about balance. I think it is interesting. You know, self-care, we all know self-care is really important. I mean, just ask my cats.
Yeah.
But also, when they're hungry, they'll get up and hunt. And they'll also exercise their body. And every time they get up, they stretch and they yawn, and dogs will shake it off and everything. So they do all the right things. as well as the self-care side of things. And I think it's so exciting once we realize what we're all capable of. And all I would say here, I do get quite emotional when I see this. This is why I think you and my chats are such a favorite time of the week for me, because the people we get joining us are just so special. You know, they're always so positive and so joining in and so creating this new reality with us. So we really, really appreciate you all so much. And I think, yeah, the difference between education and intelligence, I mean, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. But equally, I do think now it's a time for parents to take back control, grandparents to take back control, community members to take back control, to sort of stop relying on others. The amount of people that are now going into home education is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I think I've really scared my children, Chantelle, because I'll educate your kids. They're like, can you imagine what I teach them? But yes, it might not be appropriate. But it's just so amazing to see how people are stepping up to the mark and just saying, I'll find a way, and how resourceful they are at finding a way. So I think once you start realizing about the fake news and misinformation, so long as you realize it's coming at you from all sides, then we're all going to be fine.
Absolutely. When you realize it, and you might not know what it is in that moment, but if you feel yourself questioning it in any way, it doesn't, question everything, right? Question everything. Sit with yourself, do a meditation, whatever, and then resonate with if it's true or not true. And even if you don't get it right all the time, that's okay. The fact that you're doing it means you're strengthening that muscle. Just like anything, you go to the gym or you do yoga or whatever, and you get stronger and more supple. It takes time for you to get that way, right? And this is the same thing. Everything here takes practice. Every single thing takes practice. So just as long as we are willing and we are open, it's amazing what starts happening when you start saying, well, I'm willing to see the truth. Show me what the truth is. That's how I work. Show me the truth. Yeah. Show me.
Love it.
And then I'm willing, and then I look around me, and then I watch for the signs. We are always spoken to in signs. And sometimes I say, well, I'm a little bit dumbass, so won't you just show me again?
Yeah.
Just to be sure. But dumb, yeah.
Longer this time, and then you really get that kick up the backside.
Just make it clear to me, please, so I have no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So we really appreciate you being with us today. I think it's a shift. I know it might sound quite a cliche, but I think this Tucker Carlson Putin interview, it's been watched by so many millions of people already. My wish is that people watch the whole thing, not because it has to involve them. For me, I found it a really calming experience. I found it a really nice to see two adults actually having a respectful, considered conversation. I know a lot of people have said Tucker didn't challenge him enough. I don't think it was his place to challenge him. He was drawing information out and got very considered responses. Whether people agree with them or not is a completely separate issue. But it gave me a bit of hope, because I certainly, as a Brit, am so embarrassed by the state of our political system. It's worse than what it was like being a teenage girl at school, the behavior at the playground. It's embarrassing, the lack of the ability for adults that choose to put themselves in positions of responsibility, that they conduct themselves in this way. And I think, the tide has definitely turned. It's definitely turned. People are not standing for it anymore. The fact that even this could happen is really quite exciting in my view. And the fact that so many people will watch it from all sorts of different walks of life, from all over the world, is quite exciting for me. So I can't wait. Next week, we will be back on solutions with Aquarius rising Africa. So for those of you, I think we do 1 week on my channel, 1 week on Solutions with Aquarius Rising, same time, both times, both live. We love your interactions. And for anyone watching this on the playback, please let us know what you think and what topics you like us to discuss. And we really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, because the algorithms, you know, we need to program the AI.
We do.
And program it to show us positive things, not negative things. Any final words from you, Chantelle?
Yeah, I also love the idea of the Putin and the Tucker Carlson interview. I was actually seeing something on Twitter, was it yesterday, where some of the Americans were complaining about a couple of years ago, Tucker Carlson would be seen as a spy. You know, it would be he would be considered a traitor for interviewing Putin. But I think really, let's just observe. I think it is amazing to be able to observe what is going on. More than anything, it's about building fences. You know, I've been watching interviews with, in fact, it was Oliver Stone who was interviewing Putin way back in 2014, 10 years ago. And Putin's the same, you know, he's very calm, very, you know, like, gives information, doesn't get upset, and you know, he's real about what he puts out there. So I think it's a time where all of us must just calm our farm and let's just see what's going on, and you know, understand that this war that we're living in is created by the same people funding both sides. There's always a third force. I look at what happened in South Africa many years ago, when Nelson Mandela was released from jail and the ANC came in. There was, I mean, I just go back to those years and I want to tell you, my heart crushes, because there was a third force involved with the Xhosas and the Zulus, and they had this faction fighting between the two tribes, and they're both warring tribes. I mean, they're both like, you know, if you look at the history of South Africa as well, the Xhosas and the Zulus were always warring with each other. You know, it's part of the tribal, but of course, this time in a very different way. And then years later, you speak to people in the know, and you know that this was really the Americans coming in here with their third force, creating chaos and literally taking out some of our biggest politicians at the time, because they did not want, and literally putting our country on the brink of civil war, because they did not want Mandela to lose the election.
Yeah.
They had too much money invested. And then literally, you know, you see this and you know, we knew at the time, we knew stuff was going on. We just didn't know it was. We could not consider that it was the Americans. And again, not the American viewers, but obviously corrupt politicians. That's what I mean. So it's happening all the time. It's been happening since forever.
Yeah.
And we just have to be vigilant, and we have to see what's going on, and we just have to be aware. So that's what I have to say, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me again. I look forward to having you on Solutions next week, and join us there, guys. It's good. We always have amazing, informative chats. I love having conversations with you. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Have a really great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys.